Hello, everyone. And welcome to this latest show here on Up the Cherries in All Departments. It's a little bit different tonight because we are live, not just on YouTube, but we're also live on Facebook and Twitter too. So please do send over all your comments, any questions that you want to throw out to the panel. Maybe you're a Newcastle fan, you're more than welcome on this show. Just go to that link below. Also, if you are a fan of the Vegas Golden Knights as well, it would be amazing to hear what your thoughts are of Bill Foley, who is due to complete the takeover at the club very shortly, I understand. So, um, lots to cover, but of course, we're here to cover the Newcastle game. We do have some special guests waiting backstage, so we will get to them very shortly. But before we do that, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. They can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So, shall we start welcoming in our special guests?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So, let's start off firstly with Stephen from One Newcastle. How you doing, Stephen?
Yeah, not too bad. How you doing, lads?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. And also a warm welcome back to the show, Manny. How you doing, Manny?
Hey,
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you all? Good to see you.
Yeah, all good,
evening.
mate. All good. Yep, good to see you all. So let's start off with the game yesterday. So we travelled up to Newcastle, and got a point off our former manager Eddie Howe. Um, of course, Stephen, you're a Newcastle fan. What did
Mhm.
you make of, firstly, the starting lineup for Newcastle?
Well, it was a pleasure to see, obviously, Bruno Guimaraes back, one of our best players, you would say, in the midfield. It was great to see him back in the starting lineup. Obviously, with no Wilson, no Maximan, it's still a big miss for the team. And I think we did miss them sort of players yesterday, even though we had Isaac playing. And to say the problem with Newcastle is the wingers. Obviously, when we've got championship standard wingers, we've got Ryan Fraser, who's hasn't exactly set the world alight since he signed. Obviously, with Bruce, you can put that down to Bruce. And I just think he's a bit short on confidence at the moment. Then you don't have many options to bring off the bench to try and change the game like we needed yesterday to try and win the game. Jacob Murphy was not the best either. So I think it was a good lineup, the lineup I would have expected. But once you get our best players back, I think the wins will start to come then.
Yeah, definitely. So far, Manny, what do you make of Newcastle?
Here's the interesting thing, and first of all, thank you all so much for having me back. I wanted to make sure I watched the match
You're always
almost an
welcome.
entirety, almost an entirety before coming back because I didn't want to come over here and just utter such waffle, if you will. And It's interesting talking about Newcastle. I think ever since the takeover and Eddie Howe coming in and all these players coming in, expectations went through the roof. And I think Stephen might agree with me on that. And the thing about Newcastle is, you know, they also seem to have quite a few problems, in my opinion, of getting the team to truly gel as a unit, if you will. If you take a look at the record, I think wins and losses have been at a premium. It's been mostly draws. So I think that sort of cutting edge, that type of killer punch, if you will, has been lacking with the Newcastle team, I think. And I don't know if that's necessarily down to the way the team is lined up. It's interesting as well that Stephen talks about Ryan Fraser, who, if I'm correct, happens to be a former Cherry.
He is, yeah. He slivered up to Newcastle.
Yes, that must have given you some satisfaction, yeah. So, I mean, he was recently, of course, recalled to the Scotland squad for these upcoming Nations League games. So, I mean, he does seem to have improved a little bit in terms of his form, but maybe hasn't quite had the effect that Stephen and other Geordie fans would necessarily like. And I think it's a question of being able to really sort of, kick on from there and sort of really gel. It's funny as well because I wouldn't say funny. It's rather sad because I remember the Newcastle game against Manchester City, for instance, and how the likes of Saint Maximin and Almiron and Callum Wilson and others, run City really ragged. And that game and the Aston Villa game against City sort of gives you a blueprint about how you can get at Manchester City and sort of start to weaken them a little bit. So that those two games should be, watched by a lot of other teams the next time they come up against City, with regards to the type of lineups that they should put out and the type of tactics that they should employ. And certainly that type of style caught City's backline unawares. For all of their attacking prowess, their backline can be exploited. And certainly the way they played was a testament to that. Maybe some injuries have not really helped. I think Wilson wasn't fit for this game. I think that might have been a bit of a factor as well. Let's not take any credit away from Bournemouth at all, because after all, I would definitely say that Bournemouth were terrific value for the point, and the way they've recovered well has been magnificent, but we might talk about them later. I think Newcastle really need to start believing in themselves a bit more, and once their first choice players do come back, the lineup might be a bit stronger, yeah? So hopefully we will start to see some more wins. And I think they're going to, if they don't start winning soon, they will probably look back at games like the game against Bournemouth and the game against Wolves and say, you know what? These two games, which we should have won, could end up costing us dearly. And I don't know if Stephen would necessarily agree with me on that.
What do you reckon, Stephen?
Yeah, I think you say the Wolves game was a pretty hard game. You know what you get with Wolves. You're a good organised team. Some great players. You have Neves, Guedes, all Portuguese 11. If you know what I mean, Portuguese FC is he called?
As is Guimarães.
Guimarães is Brazilian, isn't he?
I think he's Portuguese. Let me look it up though.
Guimarães is Brazilian. He's in the Brazil squad.
Yeah, he is. He is. My bad. I stand corrected.
Scott the Bin Man Parker. Hello, Scott the Bin Man Parker. He's proud to announce I have found a new job. Found Fraser in one bin the other day. So there you go. It is a pleasure to welcome on the sixth guest as well. Hello, Max.
Max. Hello, Max.
How's it going? All right.
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. So, happy with a point?
Yeah, I'm happy with a point. Yeah, I didn't really expect that result, but obviously you take it against one of a really good team in the league. Yeah, I'm happy with a point.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Got another comment here from Martin Burridge. Thank you, Martin. Long-term time fan of the channel. Fraser lost his form when he saw the pound signs. So we're going back to the COVID period there. Of course, Stephen, you probably know the story now about Ryan Fraser and, why we're not particularly very fond of him.
I think it's everything they say. You aren't really keen on Fraser. I wonder why that is.
What did you make of his performance yesterday, or do you just think he's limited?
Yeah, like you say, with them, obviously with Sam Maximan out, you've got to have somebody on that left wing. Obviously, Ryan Fraser does fill that sort of gap because he can play there. He, you say he didn't exactly set the world alight yesterday. He made some good runs. He had a chance in the second half where he just dragged the ball across the goal, which he should have done better with. Just saying his mentality, his head just dropped. I mean, a lot of fans seem to be turning against Ryan Fraser now because he's just not good enough. He's like, you can't. I wouldn't say he want him out of the club, but I just think he can do better. I just think he's been badly managed. Obviously, with Bruce, it may take a bit longer for him to understand what he needs to do under House. He hasn't been played many games. Obviously, with Sam Maximan, he's the main man. He's gonna play every single game when he's fit. So, and Fraser will get the odd 10, 15 minutes towards the end of the game and try and make an impact like Chris would. He's much the same. He's like a bit part player now for when Isaac is in the team. Wilson will come back, so you would think Chris Wood will be limited to opportunities now. With obviously, I think Wilson will be back for the Fulham game. So it's about what Eddie Howe will do to implement Isaac, Wilson, and maybe Almiron in that sort of front three if you want to play that sort of formation. So, yeah, with Ryan Fraser, I thinking he needs to book his ideas a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. A question for you from Algard, good friend of the channel. And he's put, evening chaps, Newcastle lads, are you content with your start? Same to AFCB fans. I am more than happy. We have got points against those we have to in our other half of the league competition. Should we go around the room? And let's start off with you, Stephen. Are you happy with the start for Newcastle?
Oh yeah, I mean yes. I would have liked a few more wins up to now, but that's just through bad decisions that's gone against us and VAR decisions. We could have been a lot higher in the league with a lot more points. Obviously, we did lose that game against Liverpool, which we shouldn't have done. We played very well that night. We were very unlucky not to come away with a point with that. So, and it did take Newcastle 14, 15 games to get one win last season. No, we've got one win in 8, but there's too many draws. But I'm very content with the start of the season. It certainly beats what it was last season, where it took us so long to get our first win. But I'm sure the wins will come. We found Bournemouth very hard to break down with the low block situation and just hit us on the counter attack. I think that was just Bournemouth's tactics going into the game. There's no disrespect, but I think that's just how they were wanting to play. And a word on Neto in the goal. Played like prime Neuer. Yeah. Keep Newcastle out. It's not the first time an opposition keeper's had a worldie, in a sense, with Guaita for the Palace game. He had a worldie as well. It just trying to break it down. I don't think we know how to break teams down yet. It is frustrating. So I watched the game and it is really frustrating. Obviously, it was a lot of sideways back football. And it was very poor. Well, it was very poor. I mean, I can't criticise Eddie because I'm a big Eddie fan. But I'm sure once we master the knack of trying to get a few more wins on the board, playing with our best players back, I'm sure the wins will start coming. And I'm not very worried about relegation this season. I just don't think it'll happen.
No, I think Eddie will get you far in, Stephen. What do you reckon, Max? Are you happy with our 8 points on the board so far?
Well, yeah, basically, yeah, I am happy with that. We played 7 games in the league, haven't we now? 7?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, 7 in
games.
the league.
Yeah, 8 points is pretty good, but ever since Gary O'Neill is taken in charge, since sacking Scott Parker, I think it's 5 points in 3 games. If he continues to get the team on that type of form, I wouldn't say why not to give him a chance as a manager.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Looks like Max has got a little fan there.
There we are, Max. There's your fan.
Hey.
Hey, well done, Max. Hello, Molly. Who wants to go next? Shall we start? You, Sam?
Yeah. Obviously, so far we've achieved, I think, a little bit more maybe, because obviously started with Aston Villa. A good point would have been great to start with, and we got 3 points. Then the next 3 teams we expected to lose, and if you get a draw or win out of any of those, it would have been a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Gary O'Neill took charge. First game against Wolves, and we picked up a point, which I think was very good. And then he took us on to beat Nottingham Forest away. And then obviously another big point against Newcastle. I'm chuffed where we are at the moment.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, you would take 8 points at this stage. I mean, in terms of yesterday's game, I think if Newcastle may have had Wilson playing and St. Maximin, it probably would have been a different game. It was quite weird because it was the first time I saw Fraser play a whole 90 minutes. Well, not a whole 90 minutes. He was subbed, wasn't he?
Yes.
But, a large proportion of a game yesterday. And you can see, when you compare him to someone like St. Maximin, he's not the same class. So I think in terms of yesterday's game, I thought Zamora played really well for us at left back. He had a real good game. And Neto again made two fantastic saves, back-to-back saves. Could almost call it a double save, really, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Which, when I saw that, I had a bit of belief in us that we could get something out of that game. Newcastle, they're going to have a good season. I think when their players come back, they're going to be all right. They've got a great manager, as we know. I think when their squad's fully fit and when Isaac is fully settled in, I think they're going to have a good season, Newcastle. But I mean, in terms of yesterday, would I say a draw was a fair result? I thought the penalty on our part was disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, I mean, if Lerma hadn't had moved his wrist, which he does, you can see when you see the replays and you were seeing it on VAR, he's physically moved that wrist. Because he's moved that wrist, there's intent of him touching the ball. If he'd left his wrist in that position, I don't think it would have been a penalty.
No, I don't.
I can't begrudge the decision, unfortunately. It was a disadvantage for us. So I can't really take that one off of Newcastle and say it wasn't a penalty. I think it was, just purely because of that little bit of movement within his wrist. So the penalty had to be given. But yeah, all in all, it is disappointing to draw it with a penalty decision like that, because it was silly of him to move the wrist like that, I think, personally.
Yeah.
But I mean, fair play to Newcastle. I mean, they had their chances. They hit the woodwork, didn't they, twice? They kept Neto on his toes. So it was a good game of football, to be fair. It was enjoyable it wasn't really enjoyable at times for me to watch, but if you're neutral, it was an enjoyable game of football. But yeah, all in all, you would have took a point at the beginning of the day, so I really can't complain.
Yeah, definitely. For me, 8 points from the first 7 games is good. If Scott Parker had remained in charge, and this will probably lead on to the next point, I don't think we would have got those points on the board. We would have capitulated against Forest. We wouldn't have got anything up in Newcastle. And to be honest, we probably would have stood off Wolves like a bit like Southampton did in their game, and they got punished for it. So I think Gary O'Neill's doing a fantastic job. I can't take anything away from Scott Parker for that first game of the season against Villa. That was very good performance. But overall, I'm very, very pleased considering after that Liverpool defeat, which we're not going to mention, we're not going to go into that. You two just shaking your heads. We're not going to discuss that again. But yeah, to be fair, I'm very, very pleased. Just a few more comments. There is one that leads on to this. Oh, sorry. So there we go. There's me and Matt getting a little bit excited here with the remotes. So AFCB Germany. Good to see you again, mate. And thank you for continuing to support the channel. A mate of mine is an Aberdeen fan, and apparently he did the same thing to them as he did to us. And he also knows Fraser's dad, and he's apparently an arsehole too. So keeping it in the family there. And
the apples don't fall far from the trees.
And Scott, the bin man Parker, don't say anything wrong, Craig. Otherwise, I am not going to your house to collect the bins. Yeah, to be honest, yeah, they need emptying, Scott. So I'll put them out this Friday, and yeah, just make sure that you empty them. Otherwise, there's problems, mate. All right, watch it.
Oh my God, who is that? That's 10 out of 10,
Scott the bin man Parker. Please reveal yourself. That is. Got to love it. I just want to keep that up all night, but yeah, I'm sure Scott the Bin Man Parker will make more comments during the evening. But yeah, please do keep commenting because it keeps cracking Matt up. And finally, before we went off on the weird trail, Manny, what do you make of this start for Bournemouth? Newly promoted team, of course. 8 points from 7 games. We can't grumble, can we?
No, you can't. In fact, you really should be celebrating, I think, because I know you said you don't want to mention that game at Anfield, but
bloody hell,
the impact. No. I'm sorry, but just the way you've recovered, the way you've recovered from that, and the way Gary O'Neill has sort of organised the team defensively. I don't want to single out just a few players. I mean, I thought Neto was outstanding, and I will say that purchase was inspired. That is the type of person you need to get as a reserve goalkeeper. I only hope that Mark Travers doesn't lose confidence because, I mean, he is young and the future is his. But sometimes you've got to break an egg if you want to make an omelette, as they say. And I also would like to single out the likes of Adam Smith and Chris Mepham, I think, because I think your captain, Kelly, I think he was unavailable for that match, wasn't he? He had an injury and he wasn't even in the squad. So the fact that Smith was able to step up as the player with the most appearances for your lot, and also Mepham, who's been there for a long time, I thought to a man, everyone defended really well. And it was wonderful to see them so compact, nullifying the threats of they're attacking the more attacking players. And even, of course, let's not forget, even Kieran Trippier was getting into the act with his in-swinging crosses and that free kick which cannoned off the post. So on one account, you could say that Newcastle were perhaps unlucky not to score, but that just goes to show how good value the Cherries were to stay compact and get that point. And that goal from Philip Billing, that is football intellect right there. To use his leg, to do an Erling Haaland, if you will, and just stick his leg out and just get that in there, giving Pope no chance, that was class. So basically a case of hitting them on the counter-attack. I think O'Neill has got your lot playing with a lot more compactness, a lot of belief. He realizes that, you know, the way you're going to get points and possibly win games would be to stay tight and not concede too many goals and then try and hit people on the counter attack. You did that well against Forest, you did that well against Newcastle, and that could very well be your key to gaining more points and staying up this season. So I would like to see Gary O'Neill get the job at least until January if you feel you have to sign a new manager, or better still, keep him until the end of the season, and if you stay up, give him a new contract. Simple as that. And you do look, I mean, there's a misconception that counter-attacking teams are not very pretty to watch, but I do like the way you're looking right now. And I'm not, patronizing you. That's the impression I got from watching that match and a few others. You guys are good value.
No, great stuff, Manny. Let's go through this match a little bit by bit then. So when the side was announced, were you happy with the starting 11, Matt?
Yeah. Obviously, Kelly being missing was a little bit of a worry at first. But yeah, you had, your Lewis Cooks, your Lermers there, your ball winners in the middle of the park. I mean, you got to be happy with that. Billing, he's had a good couple of games recently, so I was happy with that. Yeah, I don't think he would have set up any difference. I mean, maybe things may have changed during the game if Fredericks had been fit. He may have done something similar at halftime, possibly, or if he'd gone a goal down, he may have brought Fredericks into play a little bit. But yeah, in terms of the actual starting 11, I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty certain that this guy, who is this?
Here we go. Stephen, just very quickly, would you take Scott if Eddie was to leave tomorrow? There we go. Sorry, Scott. Sorry, Scott. You'll have to keep emptying the bins.
No way. So Eddie, he wasn't bad as a Newcastle player, Scott Parker, but that's as far as it went. Wouldn't have him as a manager at all.
There we are. Sorry, Scott. As you were saying.
Sorry, anyway, where was I?
I don't know, actually. This has all gone to shit, hasn't it?
Yeah, so the start 11 yesterday really wasn't, it was probably, the strongest that he could have put out. I mean, during the game, I thought, Sensei, his passing was pretty poor. You can still see he needs time to bed in. So any other day, Kelly being fit obviously would have been in the side. But, fair play to all the starting 11, really, because, at times we were under the cosh by Newcastle, especially early in the second half. We were really, really under the cosh. So, fair play to all of them yesterday for the point, really.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So let's start from the very, very beginning of the game. We did have a chance fairly early on from memory. It was Tavernier, wasn't it? What did you make of that?
Who are you talking to?
The room.
Oh, the room.
The room. Who wants to go? Go on, Manny.
You're talking about... I know that Tavernier had a miss later on in the game. Are you talking about the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one early on.
I don't think I necessarily remember that, to be honest. So I think you might have to pass this around. But I do remember the miss late on, and I think I'll
go
talk
on,
about
Sam.
that maybe.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so obviously it was a great ball in by Zamora. He jumped up well and he did just header it wide. It's a shame he couldn't have got it on target, but it was a good try early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of made our presence felt early on. But obviously, in away games, you've got to keep at it, and it's difficult away from home for all teams, isn't it? And especially at places like St James's Park, the atmosphere. It's a difficult one to build on early chances, really.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that goal though from Billing, because what a brilliant touch that was to put that past the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think I'll take that. I think because I mentioned that, I think I'll talk about that. That's another example, Craig, of the ability that the Cherries had to sort of counterattack quite well, and the way they were able to run down the left. I believe Zamora it was who was helping to orchestrate things, and he was a part of that. And I noticed that. I'd like to think that with the attacking resources you had at your disposal, he was able to bring on Anthony. But I thought that Billing did have a pretty good game, as did Solanke. And Billing was also able to get inside the defence and also able to pop up in places where nobody expected, and the defence looked a little bit. I wouldn't say it's 6s and 7s, but they didn't quite know how to contain him. And that thing he did with his leg, as I said, it was Holland-esque, but it was another example of how he was there at the right place at the right time to sort of guide it in. And it was important as well because the way he did it, he was able to divert it past Pope, who was expecting that cross coming into the centre, only to see it go past him on his right, and the poor bloke was helpless. So if Billing had sort of touched that any other way, that probably could have gone wide. But he knew exactly how he wanted to get that, and he diverted it in quite brilliantly. And it was a well-deserved reward in many ways for Bournemouth because, again, as I said, you defended to a man. Neto had a couple of good saves, and everyone you were doing your job. You were doing the job you were asked to do, and that was a well-deserved reward. And it was just unfortunate that that penalty decision nullified that. By the way, Matt, let me say well done for not whining about that, because if had this gone against Arsenal, there would be a lot of fans on Twitter who would have been apoplectic at that decision. But
yeah,
well done. That's all I can say to you. Well done for that.
Do you know why we're chuckling?
I'm sorry, I wasn't chuckling at what you were saying, Manny. It's our mate the bin man again.
If I don't succeed as a bin man, despite being the best bin man in the world, I think Watford would be a good job for me. To be honest, they probably take you for a month and then let you go, Scott. Not really any difference to collecting trash. Well,
yeah. I'll give my thoughts about Parker in a minute, but I mean, if we go back to the goal, all I'm going to say is that again, all I'm going to say right now is that was once again another piece of opportunism and also footballing intellect, and I think it was no more than what Bournemouth deserved. But it's again a sign of how you're able to evolve under O'Neill, and you've got a style that works for you, and the more you keep at that, the better.
Yep, definitely.
It's a the point you were making about the penalty, Manny. I mean, like I say, if the wrists hadn't have moved, I can't see it being a penalty. But you're right, Arsenal fan TV, they'd be going mad about that, wouldn't they?
We
gotta love the Arsenal fan TV.
We do have another guest just waiting here, so it is a pleasure to welcome on AFCB Fan TV. How you doing, mate?
Yeah.
How's it been? All good?
Yeah.
You happy with the result?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, really, really good result up at Newcastle. What did you make of Eddie Howe and coming up against his former club? Hello, mate.
Hello.
Hello. What did you make of Eddie Howe coming up against his former club? Was you happy with the performance and everything? Yeah, excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff. Do you think we will be able to avoid relegation as well this season?
Yeah. No. Oh.
Excellent. We're going to go up. Keep going up the table. Excellent. Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. got some more comments just coming in here now. We've got AFC Bournemouth, Germany. In my opinion, we need to keep O'Neill. We'll go around the room for that one. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I'll start.
Go on. Go on.
He's done fantastic, isn't he? Really, let's be honest. You know, if we mention that dreadful game that we had a few weeks back, you know, to turn a team around within a couple of days, to get them playing more, you know, positively and you know, with a better, you know, better attitude. It was, you know, really well done by him. And you know, Gary to take the following game and turn a 2-0 deficit around was a great result. And yesterday's result, again, you know, on paper you would have taken a point. So at the moment he's doing well. I would like to see Gary O'Neill carry on in the capacity he is. Obviously, with the situation you've got with the sale of the club, which looks like is obviously happening. Obviously, as we would have read in the press over the last few days. With that, I don't think it's the board's priority to appoint a new manager, because if you've got new ownership coming in, they may have an idea of who they want to appoint. So I think Gary O'Neill is going to stay in that position until the sale of the club's completed. And when that's completed, obviously the new ownership will have their own idea on what they want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, if this is a job interview for Gary O'Neill, he's not doing himself any harm, is he? So it could be the best job interview he's ever had, or we'll ever get in football, because these new ownership will be taking a look at and obviously watching the games and seeing how the players are playing, and come once the deal's completed and the takeover's done, he may well get the job. So I think we definitely need to keep him. Definitely need to keep him for the team. I mean, like, there's a comment just come up now: keep Gary till after the World Cup, which is probably right. And let the ownership, decide when they're ready to appoint their own person. But I mean, he's doing himself no harm, and if Gary got the job, then on recent results, I wouldn't I wouldn't begrudge that at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you reckon? Keep Gary O'Neill?
Yeah, I agree with Matt totally. For now, keep him as a caretaker. For the next few games, as he said, let the takeover happen. At this point, at the end of the day, there's not many managers out there. I don't think there's really any that are shouting at me to take over the job now. Gary O'Neill's doing a good job. Let's keep him where he is. Carry on for now. And if it doesn't work out for him and another manager comes in later, fine. But yeah, I don't see why Gary O'Neill won't take the job on eventually.
Max, what do you reckon?
Yeah, keep him in at the minute. Because he's obviously gaining momentum for matches, isn't he? He hasn't took a loss yet, has he? In 3 games. Yeah,
no, he's unbeaten at the moment. So
yeah, touch wood. Yeah, hopefully, I'd like to keep him in for the minute. He's doing really good so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
AFCB Fan TV.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Keep Gary O'Neill. Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff, Manny.
I've said my piece. He has to stay, and I would also definitely keep him until January. But the thing about the new owners coming in, Craig, does worry me a little bit, because we've seen at Chelsea, for instance, how with that owner coming in, clearly having his own ideas, it ended up basically leading to the sacking of a manager who I rate very highly, and at the time of his sacking had a 60% win rate. When you have those credentials, you don't just get binned simply because the owner doesn't like your face. And I'm worried about the trend that with these American owners coming in, obviously with their new ideas, they seem to me to be a little bit, I wouldn't say necessarily insensitive, but a little bit unaware of the sentiments of the fans regarding the club, because sometimes it's often said really that, more than the owners, in some cases, is the fans who will know what's best for the club, because the fans are the ones who have their fingers on the pulse of what's happening. They're the ones who see the team playing every week. So they seem to have a lot more of an idea. And also they're the ones who pay the money for the tickets. They're the ones who feel it in their heart. And you got these Yanks coming in from across the Atlantic who just want to buy a club at their whim. I don't even know if these owners have even watched AFC Bournemouth play before. I don't even know if they would necessarily know who they are. They might just pick that name out of a hat and said, you know what, let's buy them up. So this is a worrying thing for me, because I do hope that, apart from the results, which have been terrific, I hope they will also see how the spirit within the team has improved and how the fans are warming to that team. And if that goes on until December, January, after the World Cup, then the owners would be best advised to let that remain until the end of the season. And then if you want to impose your ideas and have a chat with Gary O'Neill and say, you know, we'd like to keep you on in some capacity as assistant coach because the job you've done has been fantastic, then, you know, glory, hallelujah. But to try and impose those ideas on a team which is going through which has gone through that flux and is recovering well, I really don't think that'll be the best way to go. And hopefully these owners will read between these lines and say, you know what, let's just let things take their course, and then we'll talk about it later on.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go back to the game, and of course we did have that decision against Lerma. I'm very much of the same opinion as Matt, that it was a little bit like the last penalty we gave away, that Lloyd Kelly gave away, where he's turned his back and, you know, it's hit his hand. However, there was a little bit more movement of the wrist in this one. Stephen, do you feel it was a penalty? And if it was given against Newcastle, do you think it would have been unfair?
Well, when I seen firstly when I seen the decision in real time, I didn't get a good look at it. But when Trippier was claimed for a penalty, and he looked at the replay, and then you do see Lerma moving his hand towards the ball, which it would mean it's a penalty. But the way Newcastle's decision with VAR is going, I wasn't entirely sure it was gonna come off to be a penalty. But on the other hand, I think that would have been pretty sloppy of Newcastle if we were to give a penalty away, something like that, because the way Newcastle's luck would go on, it would have been given. So yeah, I would have been aggrieved if it had been given against Newcastle in a way. But there's no doubt, I think it was a penalty. The way Lerma, he's moved his wrist towards the ball.
Yeah.
And that's like he's saying your hands in an unnatural position. If he kept his arms down by his side, and because he hit his thigh and then it up onto his arm and went over the bar. I just think if he kept his arms down by his side, then I just think it'd have been probably given as a corner, not a penalty. But I think that's a bit of bad luck on Lerma's part, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sam, penalty or not?
Yeah, at the end, I think unfortunately it was a penalty. As Matt said, you know, his arm was slightly out. If it was against to his side, it wouldn't have been. But I think, yeah, unfortunately, that was a no-brainer for me. It was a definite pen.
Max?
Yeah, looking back at the replay, like Matt was saying, him moving his arm out, yeah, it is a penalty. At first, like, oh, can't believe it. 2 penalties now in 2 games. But it was basically like the same one as Lloyd Kelly against Forest, wasn't it? Like, hitting here. But the difference was with Lerma penalty incidents, where he's like moving his arm like outwards a bit.
Yeah.
That's why he gave the penalty. But yeah, if his hands was by his side, then surely it probably wouldn't have been given. But you never know with VAR.
Manny, do you reckon it was a penalty?
Yes, it was. And that just underlines the nature of the business of defending. It's very unfortunate, but again, defenders have got to be a little bit more aware. You also can't run the risk of putting yourself in a position where you could end up giving away a penalty. So, as with the Kelly one, I don't remember seeing that. So, if I were to see that, I could get an idea of it. But the Lerma one, definitely, as you've all said, he had to have his hands at his side. They're also, because there was such a small distance between him and Neto, for example. You could also, in some cases, sort of try and put that as an infringement of a goal scoring opportunity in some ways if someone else had been in the box. I mean, I don't want to get too far into the specifics of that, but yeah, I'm afraid that was a penalty. And again, big up to all of you for being sportsman-like enough to accept that. And
Yeah.
good on you all.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen, I understand you need to head off, but it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on this show this evening. And thank
No
you so
problem.
much for joining us.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for asking me on, Craig, and good luck for the rest of the season. I hope you guys stay up.
And likewise, I really do hope Eddie has, massive success at Newcastle. He deserves it. The club deserve it. So yeah, I hope my prediction of third, which I said to Harry Redknapp and these lads at the start of the season, does come true. It might be a bit far-fetched,
I'd
but
love that myself, Champions League '96 season. I'd love it.
well, you never know. Never know. Funnier things have happened, but thank you so much for
I'm
coming
not,
on,
I'm not
Stephen.
sure your score prediction was correct, though. You did predict the Barnstormer on my channel, though, didn't you? 4-3.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, when I looked at it at half time, I thought this isn't going to go that way unless it went crazy. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can both do really, really well. I'm sure you'll be fighting at the top, whereas I'm hoping we'll be able to stay above the dotted line, mate.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Anytime, Stephen. All the best, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And AFC B Fan TV. What did you make? Was it a penalty or not?
No.
No, fair enough, mate.
Yeah,
fair enough. We do have another comment. Actually, I wanted to cover this off as well. Facebook user. Unfortunately, we don't know who you are. I don't think Facebook actually transfers your name across. So if you are on YouTube, by all means, go on to the YouTube channel now. Of course, remember to subscribe. Everybody who's watching, please subscribe. And do leave messages. You can leave messages on Facebook as well, though. When we talk about Yank owners, I always use Ryan Reynolds and Wrexham as an example. I hope the new owners share the same passion for football. I really respect your answer to my last question, and although I'm not a Bournemouth supporter, it's great to see how the fans feel. No, pleasure to have you on, mate, and thank you so much. Oh, and it's Scott Daniels. Yeah, good to see you again, Scott. Sorry, I do apologise. It's probably that I know too many Liverpool fans, but yeah, good to have you on. By all means, jump on one of these shows one day, mate. You're welcome on any of them. We do have our local comedian as well on. We've got to show his comment. I have some money from my playing days and winning the best trophy, the UEFA Intertoto Cup. Maybe I should buy the club and put myself as manager. Wouldn't that be funny? No, it wouldn't be, Scott.
Stick to emptying bins, mate.
Yeah, stay to emptying bins. Look, I've even got a cup. Believe it or not, this cup was bought for me when I was at my old workplace. And see, Scott, that's what you'll become if you keep emptying those bins, Mr. Hench. There we are.
Back to business. Back to business. There's a couple of comments further back that I think.
Have we missed some because of
no, not that
Scott
we've
being Man
missed.
Parker?
But for example, this one here. Denham was pretty much a great owner for the club, wasn't he? And still is currently. Obviously, we're obviously talking into the future here, but and it is true that like I was saying to you earlier, Craig, there is quite a big American following out there.
Yeah, there certainly is, and we've got a great catchment area as well. And there is, by the way, everybody who is watching, there is a show coming out at 7 o'clock tomorrow. I was lucky enough to speak to one of the leading US sports channels on YouTube. The person, and incredibly knowledgeable about Bill Foley, incredibly knowledgeable, knows everything that he's achieved at Vegas Golden Knights. And of course, I had to ask the question about whether or not he's like the Cronkies, like the Glazers, like Fenway Sports Group at Liverpool. And you'll have to watch it tomorrow to see what his answer is, but it's quite positive. Just going back to the penalty decision, 100% of penalty. Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. I did not know
He
that.
is. He is.
He is. I never knew that. But I guess North American might be more accurate. Yep. And first time I heard of Foley, to be honest, I had to Google him as well. His full name is William P. Foley the second. So the second, yeah. And Martin Burridge, Max is hoping to recover the 150 million we owe him for his interest-free loan. Will that write off our debt, or is that transferred to the new owners? Opinion, please. I spoke to
very, very interesting. That is,
yeah. I spoke to Kieran Maguire, and it's well worth having a watch of that video as well, Martin, once you finish watching this one. Kieran Maguire went into the statistics of how much debt the club is in at the moment. He's in. I did an earlier interview as well before the season even started with Kieran. And of course, Mel Morris was still the chairman of Derby at the time. And he knows, and he's got so much information on every single club, and the pitfalls of that as well. So it's well worth watching that, because he does go into quite a lot of detail. I understand the figure is 130 million. So I know that there's been a lot of reports around. Sky Sports are reporting that it is 150 million. I understand the figure is 130. With regards to the transferring of debts to new owners, that I am really not sure about. I tell you what, let's ask the accountant here. Go on, Sam.
I'm not sure what would happen with it, to be honest. I would say that the new owners may take it on, but he may just take the money for the sale and go.
I would be very surprised if he took the 130 or the 150 million that's being bashed about as part of the cover for the debt. I believe it's in the region of 70 million.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, he also put 30 million last season, and he's also put in 30 million for this season. So it could be into the 100 millions now that that Maxim is owed. Yeah. So I don't believe that any businessman of Maxim's a businessman of his kind would walk away from that kind of investment. I'd imagine there'd be some agreement where the new ownership will inherit that debt. And unless there's another agreement that they pay that debt off straight away as they come into the club, similar to what Mike Ashley did at Newcastle. He bought the club and he wrote off all the debts in the process that the club currently had at that point. So it could be a case that a new ownership are buying the club for 150 million, but are wiping the debt off with Maxim in the background, or they inherit the new debt like the Glaziers. They inherited debt when they took United on, didn't they? So it will be interesting to find out what the new ownership will do.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want me to show it on the screen? What's just come through?
Something about Jeff owning 50p.
Somebody is having a laugh,
I'm,
but
I'm not
they
looking
are.
at this comment. I'm not looking at the comments no more. I can't do it.
I tell you what, I'd like to add that Jeff owes me 50p as well. I bought him a bag of chips. Still
Scott,
waiting
let
on
me
it.
ask you. Let me just ask you: is that crisps or chips, though? Be
Well,
specific,
let's
yeah,
put it
good
this way:
question.
if he's bought him chips at Dean Court, then they definitely weren't 50p. So don't know where he's bought these chips from.
Do you know what? I do love it when somebody comes on with having a good laugh like that. So Scott, the bin man, Parker, you are welcome on whenever you want.
Anytime.
But keep emptying those bins, and you'll look like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a song that might be written after him. Scott the Bin Man Parker lives by the sea. And then maybe we can continue those lyrics somehow.
Do you know what? That's one thing we've got to do on cherry picking this week. Manny, you're coming on to cherry picking this week. You're more than welcome. There we go.
I think we need to invite our friend Scott the Bin Man Parker as well, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. On to a more sensible note as well. On an unrelated note, what are your thoughts on this year's World Cup and the Christmas break? Not a fan of it at all. Actually,
Totally
here's
agree.
a question back.
Totally agree.
I'm going to throw a question back to AFC Bournemouth, Germany. What are they doing in Germany with regards to this? Are they doing a similar sort of thing as to what they are doing in the Premier League? Because the last game, if I'm correct in thinking, is the 12th of November, and that's against Everton. We've got them twice in 4 days, haven't we,
Yeah,
unfortunately?
that's right. Yeah. Carburetor Cup as well.
Yeah.
No, that's a good question, Craig, because it'd be interesting to know what they're doing in Germany. I'd imagine they're doing something. They've got to be doing something similar. They can't be continuing the Bundesliga out there with the World Cup going on. It's got to be something similar. But let's hopefully we get an answer from AFC Bournemouth Germany. But on their point there, I totally agree. I'm not a fan of it at all. Again, it's FIFA, isn't it? And we all know what that's been like over the years. To stop a season halfway through, it's not great, is it? It's not what football fans want. We want our football season to be unbroken, and to be watching potentially England in the knockout stages of the World Cup with a Christmas jumper on and the Christmas tree up just doesn't seem right, does it?
No.
So for me, it's good. Obviously, I'll be supporting England. Similar to them, Craig. Look, it's not what the World Cup's about, is it?
No.
You finish your season, you have your FA Cup final. Your players go on holiday, your players join the international setup, and then you have your World Cup. That's how it should be. So,
Colton Palmer made quite an interesting observation though the other day, and when I spoke to him, and his view is that the players could be a little bit fresher because of this, but it is in Qatar, which is one of the hottest countries in the world. And therefore, it's, even though they've got aircon in those stadiums, it's still going to be boiling hot.
Oh, yeah.
And you've already played half a season, and then you've had these Nations League games as well, which personally I think are, pretty pointless at this point in time. I won't be watching it, not because of Germany, but because of where it's held and the human rights issues. Do you know what? Very, very good point. And I think we need to bring that up because personally, it's in a country where it's very, very small. I do appreciate that they do want to cover every region of the world, which is fair enough. That's not a problem at all. Got absolutely zero problems about that. But the working conditions, the heat, of course, human rights issues. We've seen it in the news. And what they're going to do is, I understand they're going to pull the stadiums down after the World Cup. So it just seems a little bit silly. Whereas with England, or if they don't want to host it here, somewhere like Australia. I know the next one's in America, so they wouldn't go there twice. But Germany, for example, I know 2006 was in Germany. Is that too soon? I don't know. But you've got Spain. You know, when was the last Spanish World Cup? Long time ago.
80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
82, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, 82. Yeah.
So there's all these countries that have got the ability to host that World Cup tomorrow. Yet they've gone for Qatar. And there's probably countries in the Middle East as well who are ready to host a World Cup without having to build, is it 8 new stadiums, 10 new stadiums?
Something like that. I mean, are they pulling the stadiums down after the World Cup because they haven't got enough football clubs to occupy those? Because what they do sometimes, don't they? They build these new stadiums, and then eventually you'll find a football club that occupy that stadium after the World Cup. But I mean, if you look at the Brazil World Cup 2014, there's stadiums now that are just rusted and overgrown and that were purposely built for the World Cup and now just been left to go to ruin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does amaze you, doesn't it, that, you know, the amount of countries that have got the infrastructure in place to, I mean, you know, Qatar could pull out the World Cup tomorrow and England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales could just host the World Cup, but, you know, it'd be a lot of work because obviously to home all the fans while they're here and all that would be the biggest problem. But in terms of infrastructure of stadium, this country could do anything.
Yeah, definitely.
So it does make you wonder, any chance you could take Rodgers off?
No.
Come on, Chris. Come on the show. You're more than welcome. Come on the show, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's you know, it's something. It does make you wonder. The World Cup in '94, they're then getting it again, and you know we've not had a World Cup since 1966. We have probably some of the best stadia in the world. You know, we've got the best football league, which a lot of people say in the world, yet we seem to always get overlooked for the World Cup. Or, you know, I know we hosted the Euros last year for the majority of it, which seemed to have been a success. What's your man, Leicester? What's your man?
Yeah, there we are, Leicester. Chris,
yeah,
by all means, come on to the show and have a rant about Leicester, but do also tell us, would you take Scott Parker? I think I probably know the answer. I could probably have a bet on it.
But like you say, very quickly, Craig,
Go on.
Martin here could have a very, very good point from a Bournemouth perspective, because it could work in our favour.
It could do. It could
Because
do.
even if a new manager was brought in, you know, that gives the new manager time to work with the squad, or it gives Gary O'Neill more time to put his stamp on the squad, doesn't it? So I think that's a very, very valid point.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep. You agree with that, AFCB fan
Yeah.
TV? Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it will work in our favour. Max, Manny?
Yeah, it could in a way, because just taking a look at your roster, I think there are a few Welshmen who might be involved. I'm thinking of the likes of Kiefer Moore, Chris Mepham. I know that David Brooks has recently entered remission from, I think it's lymphoma. Does he have?
Yeah.
So first of all, let me say, David, I don't know if you're watching this, but I wish you a full recovery. I hope you get yourself back to full strength. Your family needs you. Your team needs you. Your fans love you. You're loved. And so I think with the Welshman going away, O'Neill could have a full squad, and maybe that could possibly be to his benefit. It's not going to be like any of the major teams who will be losing players to that World Cup in question. And I think I don't want to drag drone on too long about the merits of hosting it in Qatar, but I completely believe that country never should have been given the right to host that tournament. A country
Yeah.
which would have been good in the Middle Eastern region, if you want to expand it, there would have been the United Arab Emirates. There are 7 emirates in total. Each emirate has its own football stadium, and there is a thriving football culture in the UAE. And of course, it is the global international culture hub, if you will. So much happens over there. But just having a World Cup in that region, especially in the summer, they couldn't have it in the summer. It's not so humid over there, mind you, so you don't really sweat as much. But even then, temperatures of above 40 degrees Celsius are simply not fit for any kind of sporting activity. You take a look down in Melbourne, where they play the Australian Tennis Open. Even there as well, temperatures get quite high. Players complain of heat stroke, and that, mind you, is just as physically demanding a sport as football. And with climate change being another factor, I mean, I don't even know the thought processes that go into deciding the hosts. And when news of these human rights abuses broke out, FIFA should have had the guts, in my opinion, to take the hosting rights away from Qatar. The only reason why they probably didn't do that is because they were concerned about the loss of potential revenue and maybe creating another global controversy. But clearly, that decision to award Qatar that World Cup, despite them not having any real footballing history until maybe recently with an Asian Cup win, was a dreadful, dreadful decision. And it will be one of those decisions which will be a black mark on their history. Simple as that.
Well, I tell you what, let's bring on somebody that isn't very happy. Hopefully everybody is still all right to carry on. Because I tell you what, really enjoying this tonight. We should do this a little bit more often. Just an open shop, shouldn't we? Really, just have the football chat. What do you reckon?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's bring on our 8th guest. Because of course Stephen left us a little bit earlier on. He's not very happy, I can tell you. It's Chris from Leicester Till I Die.
I'm living the dream, mate. I am totally happy. I couldn't be any better. But then again, it's costing me a bloody fortune in drugs.
Just very quickly, I think we might have actually found your manager.
Yeah. Not the bin man Parker.
Hey, he was the reason I had you down for going straight down.
Yeah.
Because of him. No. Just
no. I don't blame you. I do not blame you at all. Hello, Phoenix Reborn 60. I don't believe we've met you before, so please do remember to hit the subscribe. But pleasure to have you on the show as well. Let's talk about Leicester, actually, because I think we've covered quite a bit off on Bournemouth. But Leicester, quality squad, haven't replaced Kasper Schmeichel. Ward's Ward's not very good, is he?
Do you know? Okay. Let's stop there. You've gone straight for the jugular here and found my pet. And it's your fault. You set me off with this question. I'm fed up with people blaming Ward. Right?
Okay.
Kasper was absolutely rubbish last season. He was Dracula. He would not come out for crosses. He was absolutely useless. Yes, he's been great. Don't get me wrong, and I love the guy for what he's done. But we had a load of injuries last season. He didn't know what his back four was, but he should be commanding that back four, and he wasn't. He couldn't command a kiddie's Sunday school party last season. So yes, for me, he had to go. Ward has come in. We've had an awful start to the season, obviously. The defence, we've had the French git that fucked off to Chelsea. 7 years there, Chelsea. See how that is in a couple of years when Real Madrid come knocking. Ward has had it. He's had a bit of a baptism by fire. But you look at Spurs yesterday. There was 2 super goals from Son.
Yeah.
Bloody Gordon Banks in his peak wouldn't have saved. And the same with Arsenal. And a goalkeeper, when we actually break it down, you've got to look at how many, okay, you can look at how many goals he's conceded, but what's happening in front of him? And at the moment, we've got a shit defence. We totally have. And so it's not his fault. Everybody's calling for Iverson because he saved us in one good. It's all full of Scott Parker, though, isn't it? He had one good game in the Caribou Cup against fourth tier Stockport, and who had 4 shots on goal all game. So that's how good Everson. No, don't start me on Ward.
No, fair enough, mate. Fair
And
enough.
Casper had to go. And if you look at Casper, today was the first clean sheet he kept against, I think, a bottom 5 or 6 teams. So he's not having the best of times at Nice. So.
Your owners have always been brilliant, though, haven't they, Chris? And they've always been supportive of the manager. But I think patience has got to be running out with Rodgers now. I think they're
Run out for me. I write a piece every Tuesday for the BBC website.
Yep.
On every team, you do the Bournemouth one. I've literally just done the Leicester one. And I was told to keep it clean because of the, obviously what's going on tomorrow. And so sort of 10 rewrites later, I think I've got it. I don't think a swear word slipped through. Do you know what? Again, see, a lot of people, you read into things and you see things from the outside. Now I'm the same with other clubs. You don't know what's going on. He has been supported. He's been supported to the tune of millions more than he spent more than any previous manager.
Yeah.
Thing is that last season when we were in Europe, we only just got past the FFP rules, and for UEFA they're a lot worse than the FA's. The UEFA are now watching us, and it has to be said, West Ham, Chelsea, and Man City as well. So our accounts are being scrutinised. So we didn't sell a player last summer, so we're in the position where if we signed anybody and somehow managed to maybe sneak into that 7th place, we'd be fined like mad because we're suddenly in the UEFA competition. So the owners could do one of 2 things. They could do what Barcelona did, sign a load of players and have a squad that they can't register because they've got too many players. So if we register the new ones, we've still got the old ones that we haven't been able to sell that we're paying wages to. And then they've ended up selling off sort of half the TV rights, as I don't know. Or we do what Leeds did a few years ago, which was gamble and hope that we get into Europe and therefore make the money from that. It didn't do Leeds any good. And look at Derby. How much they spend trying to get in the Premier League. Broke FFP. Look where they are now. I'd sooner have a club, thank you very much, in 12 months' time, wherever that happens to be.
No, fair enough. Just going back to one comment as well from BT. I'm guessing that's not British Telecom, but good to have you come on the show, mate. The pleasure as always. I've seen you comment a couple of times. As of June the 30th, 2021, AFC Enterprises Limited, who is owned by Maxim Demin, has a non-interest bearing loan with AFC Bournemouth of £128.5 million. Now that is interesting. And I'll tell you why. Kieran Maguire was saying it's £130 million bid.
I was going to say you're about to be bought out by a Los Angeles gambling guy, aren't you?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, that's it, yeah.
Yes.
Is it worth the gamble, do you think? That was a joke.
To be fair,
no, it wasn't. Nobody laughed, so mate. I guess it wasn't.
To be fair, I was really, really worried when this news broke because we've been run so well by Maxim Demin. Of course, we've not always been ran so well. I think Eddie Mitchell and Maxim Demin have been the 2 exceptions, haven't they, really? Would you agree, guys, that they ran the club well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Credit.
Before that, it was a little bit of it was a mess. It was a mess. Of course, we had Winter Gardens, we had the Great Escape, we had bailiffs coming into the club, taking club stock, having to Jeff Mostyn having to buy it back. A complete and utter state. It's all in the -17 video. Personally, I was, before I did the interview with Kieran Maguire, I was a little bit skeptical because of the Cronkies, because of the Glazers, because of Fenway Sports Group, because of some of the horror stories you've heard from American owners. And I did another interview today, and it will be going live tomorrow. It is with one of the leading US sports YouTubers out there. So please do remember to hit that subscribe, that bell button, that like button, just so you're alerted to when that goes live, because it's incredibly in depth. It's incredibly in depth. He's so knowledgeable, and the sort of explanations he's giving of why Bill Foley is a little bit different, and he even names some people as well who you could put in the risky category. It's filled me with a little bit more optimism. Of course, we'll have to see once he takes over. Hopefully he'll keep his promises, but you don't buy a club to send it down the Swanee. That's what I always view it as. But some people seem to be able to do that, don't they?
Yeah,
I mean, as you know, I live in Poole, just outside Bournemouth, and I came down here. My first year down here was the Winter Gardens year, and what I've seen that club go to, and that's why I always have the deepest respect for both Jeff Mostyn and also Eddie as well. And you've been there, we've been there. You don't want to do anything that's going to risk that. Would you I'd sooner have a club in the Championship, and I'm sure you would be, than a club that's going to about to go bust in the Premier League. I'm just wondering if you do get this new American owner, what he's going to come up with. North, south, east, west games?
Wow.
We're all right. We're in the Midlands. We don't get involved in it. You know what I mean? But Chelsea goes, it's a North versus South game.
I believe to actually get something put forward, you would need 14 clubs to vote in favour of a
It ain't going to
decision.
happen, is it? It ain't going to happen.
But I think the fans would rebel against that.
Too many games.
There's one for you, Chris. Rodgers has almost 3 years left to run on his $200,000 a week contract, which expires in 2025.
10 million apparently is going to cost us to get rid of him.
I just read 18 million in compensation.
No, I think it's about 10. The thing is, why do we get so? Oh God, we've got to buy him off for 10 million. When we go and pay that without thinking for a player, we paid 11 million for Vestergaard. So if we could do that, we could pay him 10 million. And then you've also got to think, what will we lose if we get relegated?
Yeah.
It's a huge. That's a huge amount. So you've got to balance these things up, and he's just a manager that he's not taking us forward. He started well, and then we've gone worse and worse and worse each year. I have a feeling it should be the other way around, but
yeah,
there we go. But if you want him, like I say, you've got the vacancy. I'm happy to pass your number on to him. I'm nipping down to Sandbanks to knock on Harry's door to see if he's free. I'm sure he'll find a part-time job.
No, I think you're all right with Brendan Rodgers. Here's one for you, Chris. Who do you want as new manager if Rodgers leaves? I know just the man that is going to apply.
Spots in that marker.
Go back to the sense.
No, he isn't even on the list that was on the. I actually did a show earlier this morning where we did a tactical analysis of the game, and we went through a list of names that were up. And I've gone another Leicester channel, and I spat my coffee out when he suggested this a few weeks ago, and that was Sean Dyche. And whether Rodgers has got to me so much, but I'm actually sat here watching a few Sean Dyche interviews, thinking, "Oh, he's actually talking sense." So I don't know whether I'm getting old and senile, but he would. And Ant's going to kill me if he ever hears me saying this, so don't tell him. But he would put some steel back into that. You know, he would kick a few arses. There's no doubt about it. And you know, when people accuse him, because we know Dan, you know, the Burnley fan, and we accuse him of playing one style of football, but he's had to play with the players that he's had available, and those Burnley players were not Maddison. You know, were not Dacko. So maybe he will do better. Rafa Benitez has been mentioned. I'm not up for that. Pochettino's been mentioned. Yes, of course I'd jump at that, but he won't come. I mean, you know, you carry on down the list and you get to Ranieri coming back, Puel coming back, Alan Pardew apparently is on that list. Wayne Rooney. If I had to, I don't. At the moment, I'm torn between. I'd love Thomas Frank at Brentford.
Yeah.
But would he come? That is the question.
It would be very, very interesting.
Then again, I never thought Potter would leave Brighton, to be honest with you. So
yeah. Leicester probably have got more resources than Brentford have. But he's got a side that he's established there at Brentford. So it's a big question.
The only thing is that he could ask is, where can he go? Like you say, you know, has he achieved as much as he can with that Brentford side? You know, what did Brentford really hope to achieve? At the outside, again, like a Burnley, maybe the odd seventh place here and there. Could he do more with Leicester? Yes, he probably could do. No disrespect to Brentford. Dyche, he's going to you guys, though, isn't he?
Do you know what?
I don't really want him.
I don't really want Dyche. I just don't want him. I just don't think. I think Gary O'Neill will stay as manager until this takeover. And just going back to that takeover, I think he will stay in charge until that happens. The new owner might decide that he wants to keep hold of him and keep him on as permanent. And to be honest, I wouldn't be against that at all. That's a very, very good point. He is a ruthless and successful businessman who will want Bournemouth to do one thing: win. In fact, that is something that is coming on the video tomorrow, so please do remember to watch that as well. It's with a guy called Steve Linkowski, and he's very, very clued up with regards to all American sports.
What, if I can ask, if you don't mind, I mean, I thought this Russian owner. I was surprised that you got away with the Russian owner, the way things are at the moment. But B, I thought he was, you know, there for a while. Why does he suddenly want to sell up?
I think it's because he's got to the limits of where he could do. So I think he's invested over the last 2 seasons 30 million each season, and personally I don't think he wants to invest any more into the club. He already has got, and I believe that figure, and to be fair, the figure that BT gave earlier on does make sense, because I understand, and I've been told it is 130 million. That's the figure I've been told through sources. You know, whether or not that's right, I can't say, but you know, that's what I've got to go off. But that would pay off any outstanding loans and debt to Maxim. Will he make much from the club? I don't know. You know, is there going to be a case of that some of that debt is passed over to Maxim? Again, really, really not sure. From Maxim to the new owners, I should say. Really not sure, but it's well worth watching that video tomorrow because this
Are you
Bill
doing a
Foley.
video tomorrow?
Yeah. Well,
well,
believe it or not, it's already done. It's already done, Chris. You know, already prepared. But you know, this guy has the club as well. Vegas Golden Knights have only been going 5 years, but they've already got through 3 managers. So I don't think he's going to stand for any, shall we say, shit, is he?
Who would you want then as your new manager?
I'm quite happy with Gary O'Neill for the moment till the World Cup.
He's done bad, has he?
He's not done badly at all.
When we get our new our new ownership in with all this dosh, we're going to go for Pochettino.
Oh, hang on, sorry, that's me.
That's all right, Chris. That's all right. What the hell was that ringtone?
Oh, it's a video I'm doing. It sounds rude, that doesn't it? It's a jingle video I'm doing. I've just set up a new radio station, so it's a jingle for that. You know.
Yeah. Just going
that you believe anything.
Comments. If Sean Dyche goes to Leicester, he will probably turn the whole team into King Ball merchants.
He means
long ball merchants. That's predictive text for you.
Or he meant Efkin ball merchants.
Yeah.
But again, that's only because that's who he's had. You know, that's the standard of the players he's had. You know, I mean, Burnley have never spent the sort of money they've spent recently when he was there. You know, I've just been impressed with what he's been saying, and I actually part of my piece for the BBC tomorrow was be careful what you wish for. If you look at Blackburn, they got rid of Sam Allardyce and put Steve Keane in. Man United, Ole being replaced with Ralph, and Arsene Wenger. You've always got, be careful that you don't get somebody that's going to do worse for you. Our problem is who could do worse. Because this is the worst.
Yeah, there is that, isn't there?
It's a new record we've got. The worst ever start by any team in the Premier League. So,
evening, Noel. Hope you're well, mate. Martin Burridge. No way Dyche is coming to Dean Court. I hope not. We are going through a stale wave of recycled managers. We need new faces, and in that vein, O'Neill is like a breath of fresh air. Do you know what?
It's Rodgers, guys. Don't fight it. You're waiting for Rodgers. Just accept it, will you?
No, don't want Rodgers. Honestly, Chris, you can keep Rodgers.
No, we don't mind. Helping out. Other clubs. I'll even bring him down for you.
Scott the Bin Man Parker has applied for the role at Vegas Golden Knights. So to be honest, the Vegas Golden Knights manager, whoever he is probably going to be better than you, Scott. Let's say that. He's probably better than you, and he probably knows nothing about football.
Golden Knights, that sounds like a sex club in Soho. What's he managing?
Now we've gone down to a whole new level now.
I always do.
And the nets are about as big as the bins that I'm using, so how difficult can it be?
This is great.
Oh, do you know what? I hope you're here all night, Scott the Bin Man Parker. Please do subscribe, Scott, because I tell you what, I want your infinite wisdom and your comedy every single time on this channel. I absolutely love it. We've got a couple of them we have on here that seem to pop up from time to time, and some comedians, haven't we? We've got what was the other one? Jackie Handslip, wasn't it?
Jackie Handslip, yeah.
Jackie Handslip. She turns up.
And there's another one now, isn't there? There's
the regular posters.
Yeah.
John Bond's always quite respectful, isn't he? He's always quite nice. Chloe Davis, she's always quite all right. Who's the other one? Oh, Scott Dean or something, wasn't it? He's got a point in this
Hey
picture.
guys, I'm going to have to go. So just
Right.
nip
No
on.
problem at all, Chris. It has been a pleasure having you on
Thanks
to
for
talk
having
about
me on.
Leicester.
Making me feel so much happier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've loved talking about our bad start yet again.
Don't think we're coming in for Rodgers, because we're not, Chris. You
Wait
can keep
till we come
Brendan.
down here in a few weeks and pummel you. Yeah, right.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
We'll
We
do
seem to
something
have
for
quite a
that
good
anyway,
record
mate.
against Leicester as well.
Sorry?
We have quite a good record against Leicester as well, don't we?
I know you
I'm
do.
looking forward to that winnable game in a few weeks against Leicester.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, keep
Honestly, I
keep
can't
Rodgers
argue,
till then.
can I? I'm even predicting the opposite team to win, opposition to win, so I get points in the prediction league. That's how bad things are at the moment. Because I know we're not. If I go for Leicester, I know I'm not going to get a point. So
It's got bad, hasn't it? It's got bad.
I went 2-1 to Spurs in hope more than it was a lot worse. Anyway, we'll do something because obviously we have got each other coming up. Nice to meet you guys.
Yep.
Take
And
care.
Cheers.
good to see
Thank
you
you,
again,
sir.
Chris.
Take
All the
care.
best. Take
All
care,
the best,
mate.
mate. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Right, I think we have probably covered quite a bit, haven't we, tonight? So I think probably within the next 10 minutes we'll wrap it all up. But when we last beat Leicester 4-1 at home, Schmeichel booted the ball at Indeed's arse, and we got a penalty and gained momentum from that game. So there we are. MWF on YouTube. Oh, crying out loud. I've just seen it again. You can see Matt's face. He's just like, yeah, the guy is back. It's been a long night, hasn't it?
Oh, I
it's
forgot
not.
I suspect. Maybe I can have one of these penguins.
Oh, jeez. What do I do on this channel? But yeah. But let's look at, so of course we have got the Nations League coming up. I'm not even sure what games they are. The one question here though is, will Southgate get sacked if, and this is big if England lose both of them?
No.
No.
No, he
No.
won't get sacked.
No.
He's had two, three two or three tournaments he's done with us.
Mhm.
He's done how many tournaments has he done?
He's done the World Cup, hasn't he? Euros, Nations League.
Yeah.
He's done two, isn't he? Like two major tournaments,
Yeah,
isn't he?
two major.
And at both tournaments, we've obviously got to one final and a semi-final of the World Cup. So in terms of actual tournaments, he's got a great record, isn't he? So I think it would be very brave of the FA to sack him before.
Mhm.
Do I think this is Gareth Southgate's last tournament as England manager? Quite possibly.
Yeah. I think it is.
Reason being, if we go out of the group stage, I think he'll be gone straight away. If he does well in the knockout stages, but we don't win it, I think there'll be a discussion between him and the FA on what can he do to take England further. Fair play to the guy. I mean, he's given us two great tournaments. Obviously, we were unlucky not to win the Euros, probably on the day we should have won it.
Yeah.
I would say we were the better side. But I think that goal early in the game, if we'd have scored later in the game, I think we would have won it. But yeah, as for the Nations League, it's not something that I don't think. It's one of those games that I think if you got nothing to do and you can watch it, you watch it. Again, I think it's just something where UEFA has tried to excite friendlies, haven't they? They've replaced the traditional friendlies, haven't they? And they've got relegations and promotions, and when you've got to look into it in quite depth to understand the format of it.
Mhm.
yeah, it's not something I would rush home for and
No.
particularly watch myself. But yeah, but our mate Scotty looks like he's got a feeling he might have the England job. Breaking news by the looks of it.
Oh, we've got to put it up on the screen. I have
have
a slight feeling I might not be quite good enough for the England job. I do, however, like San Marino.
San Marino.
San
Take
Marino.
it. Take it.
Scott. Take it. Take it. Take it. You know.
I'd be interested to hear what Manny thinks of the Nations Leagues.
Yeah, go for it, Manny.
Oh, where do I even begin? If you want to have, I think there was a comment over there which mentioned that the Nations League was good for a lot of the lesser nations, if you will, giving them some opportunities to try to play for some silverware and see if they can improve themselves. That's perfectly fine. But when it comes, to be honest, it reminds me a bit of this recent Conference League, which I get why they're doing it. They want to give a lot of smaller clubs a lot more exposure, but again, it's more games in the calendar, and that's exactly what this Nations League is more or less doing. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I despise it, but I think there could be more. There could be better things to do. If it means playing just a few friendlies every year, using that as more serious preparation, then that's fine. Because now, of course, with this World Cup coming in, you got the Nations League coming in. I don't even know if England are necessarily taking the Nations League seriously this time around, given how they performed. I mean, that defeat to Hungary was diabolical. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And if Southgate doesn't perform well in these two Nations League games, he's not going to lose his job. But it will be alarming to see how his team's performances have deteriorated since the Euros. And I think it might be fair to say that with that Euro final, which he cost us with his tactics and his substitutions and his penalty decisions, he might have taken England as far as he could possibly go. So we will need to look for a new manager after the tournament, because if the football isn't of decent enough quality, I think we have to look for another option, certainly. It's a sign of how we've improved in our standards. We're no longer the quarterfinal specialists, which is nice, under Ericsson. But we regressed under Capello and even more under Hodgson, so it was good to come back. But we need to move a little bit forward. And
I think this England squad now is probably the best England squad that we've had for some time. And therefore, there's a big question there. If Southgate leaves or sacks, who will replace him? There's only one man, and everybody knows who that is.
I don't. Can you fill me in, please?
Let's go around the room, Craig, and see what everyone thinks.
Yeah, I'll go last because mine's quite obvious. But Matt, who are you going for?
Are we starting from this way?
Yes.
Okay. There'll be two candidates, I believe, and I believe one will be well, actually, no, three candidates. There'll be Graham Potter.
Yeah.
Because I believe the FA hold him in quite high stead. But for me, I believe Eddie Howe will get it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Bournemouth fan and I'm an Eddie Howe fan. I'm saying that purely because I feel that he is an FA man. The way he conducts himself in interviews, conducts himself in his personal life, in the way he is as a manager, I think he would fit the FA perfectly. And I think, obviously, with the way he gets the best out of players, it'd be very, very interesting to see what he does with a group of players, at England level, and by getting the best out of them game by game. And my third choice and a 2-1 favourite would be Scott the Big Man Parker.
Oh dear, he's already applied. He's already
applied. All seriousness, it'd be those two candidates. It'd be, I think, it'd be Potter and Howe. I think the FA would like to stay with an English manager. But then again, you can't rule out foreign managers. We've had them before. But if I was purely going on an English-based manager, it'd be one of those two that I think would be first on the list for interview.
Go on, Sam. Who would you go for?
Yeah, obviously the best English prospect is Eddie Howe, and that's not being biased, but I really do think it depends on how well he's doing at Newcastle. Obviously, he's starting on a new project there, and if they're starting to get up the table and doing well, it may not be the right time for him. It might be the next time another England manager job comes up. But definitely the best one prospect for English would be, of course, Eddie Howe.
So Eddie Howe 2, Graham Potter 1. Manny, who would you go for?
Well, it'll be neither of those two, and I'll tell you why. Because both Potter and Howe do have their credentials. I will agree with both of you, all of you on that. The only problem is they are currently on fairly lucrative deals at clubs which have money to burn. I do not know if the FA will be willing to offer any kind of a compensation package which will trump what's being offered to them at Chelsea and Newcastle, respectively. And that's all the more's the pity, really, because if the FA do decide that they would like to go with an English manager, if Southgate isn't an option, there's no way that we could even consider going back to the likes of Steve McLaren, the quote, Wally with the brolly. We remember that. One interesting angle I'd like to consider is possibly, going back to the foreign route, but preferably a coach who might speak good English. And the reason why I say this is because if we're in a situation where we need to replace Southgate any which way and we can't find a decent English manager to do the job, these German coaches like Klopp and Tuchel, for example, they actually have come over here to England and have done quite well, and they do speak good quality English, so they would certainly have no issues being able to communicate with everyone. But I also think that if you take a look at coaches like Jogi Löw, for instance, when he replaced Jurgen Klinsmann, he revolutionized the team and took them one step further from being World Cup semi-finalists to world champions. I just think that, in the latter half of his reign, he obviously started to rest more on his laurels. He should have probably gone after that disastrous 2018 World Cup, and in the Euros, he didn't fare much better. We knocked them out. Perfect.
Yeah.
And so maybe with a new challenge, if he were to come over and possibly try to, improve the internal structure, the coaching structure, he'd be a good asset. Or maybe someone like Tuchel, who was recently fired by Chelsea. He knows what it takes to win silverware. He can also work with a few of the players in the team. Barely speaks English though. Who are you suggesting there, mate?
Oh, Joachim Löw.
Oh, yeah. I think the English might be a bit of a problem there. If Löw's not an option, then there will be some other decent coaches who can do that. I think the FA wouldn't be too remiss to try and give Tuchel a shout, speak to him maybe and get his ideas in and see if there's anything that can be improved, because, there's always going to be some room for improvement, and sometimes having an outsider coming in and doing a decent job would freshen up the team. Are any of you rugby fans, for instance?
Rugby fans? To be honest, I watched like the Six Nations and the World Cup, but not really.
Oh yeah, but we of course have had the Aussie Eddie Jones managing our team. Not a very popular appointment at first, but when he first came in, of course, he was able to do a good job. There is a part of me that feels that he has been in the job for far too long, but he certainly wouldn't. He certainly wasn't a bad shout. He didn't do a bad job. So maybe another foreign manager wouldn't be a bad idea. It wouldn't be a libidinous Swede or an Italian who would be more of a sergeant major type. I think having a German would certainly instill a little bit more in terms of toughness, but he would also bring about some efficiency. So why not try Tuchel? That could be an idea, perhaps.
Yeah. So Tuchel, that's an interesting one. Scott the Bin Man Parker is going for his mate Rooney. Max, who do you go for?
Hello,
Max. You all right?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry if I'm speaking a bit quiet because I've got sniffles. Sorry, carry on. What was the question about manager for England?
Yeah, so if Southgate leaves, who would you want?
It's a tough one, really. Although, as much as I'd like to see Eddie Howe probably take it, although it probably would be unlikely, but because if he takes the England job, we could say, look, we've had a manager at Bournemouth. As a little club we are, he manages the actual official England team.
Yeah. So Eddie Howe is on 3. AFCB Fan TV. Who are you going for?
Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe.
There we
Yeah.
are. Yeah. Excellent stuff. And I tell you what, I would go for Eddie as well. Personally, I think he's the best young coach out there. So yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I think Eddie Howe. Scott, I'm sorry, you're not going to get the job. You're going to be clearing the bins and looking like Mr. Hench there.
Yeah.
Right.
Craig, at this juncture, let me just offer my observations on Parker. I mean,
Yeah.
I get the thing. A lot of us will remember him from his playing days. I think, he might have been carrying on a lot of frustrations from his playing days into his managerial days. I mean, when he was at Chelsea, he was behind Frank Lampard and Claude Makelele in the pecking order, so he couldn't get a game. He never won a Premiership winners' medal, so he had to move on. He was always this type of player who definitely had the ability and wanted to try and do more, but I think he felt as though his career might have been stunted in some ways for both club and country. And then, of course, now he feels a little bit more pressure to prove himself as a manager. Maybe he takes himself a little bit too seriously. That's my opinion of him. And I think instead of taking another job where he's the top man, he might be better off being someone's assistant, sort of low-key in the background, learning a little bit more, learning how to deal with tough situations and players with egos. And then maybe some years from now, he can come back. I mean, there is some talent in him. He does seem to have a decent footballing brain, but I think he takes himself too seriously. He puts too much pressure on himself. Maybe he might need to take a bit of a break. I'm not suggesting he should go and be a bin man, but maybe a break would do him good.
Well, I think that's a perfect point to wrap up the show. So, thank you so much for coming on AFCB Fan TV. Just quickly before you go, I do apologise. What is your name? Hello, mate.
Yeah.
All right. What is your name?
James Reed.
James Reed.
James Reed.
Yeah, good to have you on, James,
Yeah.
and all the very, very best. And you're more than welcome on whenever you want.
Yeah.
Take care, mate.
See you soon.
mate.
Cheers.
And Max, thank you so much for coming on the show as per normal. I'm
You're
sure.
welcome, Craig, mate. Thank you
you
for
will-
having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure as always, mate.
Hello,
Pleasure
Max.
as always. And yeah, I'm
Max,
sure
Max.
I'll see you at football training. I'll try not
No.
to hack you down this time.
No, I won't. I don't think I'll be able to attend because I tested positive for COVID like
Oh, yeah,
4
yeah.
hours ago.
You're not down for this week, mate. Don't
Yeah.
worry. It's all good.
There we are.
Bye,
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I've
right.
got
Well,
to,
good to see you again, Max.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for coming on, mate.
Take
Yeah,
care.
get well soon and stay strong.
Cheers,
Yeah? Be strong.
cheers, mate.
Bye.
And Manny, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's always a pleasure. Really,
Yeah.
really insightful.
Yes,
And
it
we'll have to get you on for a cherry picking
Yeah.
one week. So
Yeah, I've done my share of strawberry picking, so cherry picking should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
excellent stuff. Well, we've got one happening on Thursday, so we'll be recording on Thursday. So by all means, if you're available, please do come on.
Of course, mate, a pleasure. And I want to thank you all for inviting me. Obviously, as a neutral, I might not necessarily have my finger completely on the pulse of the club like you all do, but I'm always happy to offer my insights. And as long as you all appreciate what I have to say,
Yeah,
I'm happy to
yeah.
keep coming back. But thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
great-
Absolute
great
diamonds.
to have
Pleasure's
a-
all ours, Manny.
It's great to have a neutral insight to the game. It's good to have someone that's neutral comes on and gives their point of views, and your knowledge is absolutely superb.
It
So
is.
you're great to have on. It's great
Cheers,
to have
mate.
you
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you
Manny.
Thursday then if you're up for it.
I will look into it. You mentioned the time, and if I am free, I will come running.
Excellent.
Good man.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And then there's just us three. There's just us three.
Three
We
amigos.
have got some more just very quickly. When I told Scott Parker, Scott the bin man Parker, that I need my bins emptying. Not with that tone, Craig. Oh, sorry, Scott. Look, that's me. Somebody bought me that at work. Some woman bought me that, and I tell you what, that's me. So don't mess. £2.50 an hour for emptying bins. That's expensive, especially for Scott. Cheers. Cheers, Alan. A pleasure to have you on.
Martin's got an important point here. The bins are overflowing in Ringwood, so off you go,
Yeah.
Scotty.
Get yourself down there, Scott, please. You need to get yourself down there. Go on. Off you go. We've got time to go. Wake up early and not tidy your bins. Well, you'll get the sack then, Scott, won't you? You've already had the sack this year, so you don't want the sack again. John Bond. John Bond needs his dog poo cleared up by Scott. So come on, Scott, sort this out. And good show, boys. Thank you, John. Pleasure as always. And oh geez, we have got our regular Southampton fan here.
Your shit up the Saints. Hey! Nah.
No. You mean you're fictional? Are you fictional?
Scott?
Are you fictional?
Yeah, Scott.
Bin Man Parker? I don't think we've got the real Scott Parker. And last one, got used to it. Up the Saints, put you in the bin, Craig. Thanks, Southampton. We love you too.
Oh, there's our friend Jackie.
Let's finish on the nice comment. Great evening, guys. Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. And yeah, last one.
There's our friend Jackie.
Hello, Jackie.
Hello, Jackie.
Oh dear, they're all out tonight. Thanks, guys, and thank you, Chloe. Right, I think that's enough for the comments now. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that one as well. Yeah, we're not going to put anything more on there. So yeah, thanks so much, guys, for coming on the show. A pleasure as always. Of course, cherry picking this Thursday. It's overrun by a bit, hasn't it? I said about an hour, didn't I?
We've nearly been on for 2, Craig.
Do you know what? We've got a bit carried away tonight, haven't we? But I think we should do
it was good
more
to
often.
hear. Good to hear points. Manny, fantastic points. That he always brings up, and it was great to have Stephen on from Newcastle. Was it Newcastle 1?
Yep, 1 Newcastle. Feels a long time ago.
So yeah, it's been it's been, and then obviously Chris from, is it Leicester City Fan TV or
Leicester Till I Die.
Leicester Till I Die.
So, yeah.
It's nice to get other people involved, and obviously James and Max as well coming on. So it's always good to have other people on. So
yeah.
So even though it's run on a bit longer than we expected,
Scott doesn't like me.
Sorry.
Scotty's done.
Right. Scott. Right. So on that note, I think it's time to close the show. So yeah, cheers for coming on, guys. Thank you everybody for watching this show tonight. It's been a lot of fun. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button. We've got a special show tomorrow, and that special show is going to be talking about Bill Foley. I've already spoken about it about 15 times, so do watch that. It's with one of the top US sports YouTube channels out there. They have got 500,000 subscribers, a little bit more than the 8,000 somebody else has, but we'll have no more. But yeah, please do remember to hit the like, subscribe, and also, do you want to announce this, Matt? I'll let you announce this. So what is happening on Tuesday at 7 o'clock? I'll make you full screen for this.
Yep. So Tuesday night at 7 p.m. premiering on YouTube. Myself and Craig will be interviewing Lee Bradbury, former Bournemouth manager, Bournemouth player. So yeah, stay tuned for that because that would be a very, very interesting interview. An evening with Lee Bradbury, 7 p.m. on Tuesday.
Excellent. Well, do keep posted for that, but it has been an absolute pleasure tonight. And, you know, thank you everybody for joining us. And we shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, we've got cherry picking as well on Friday morning. We'll probably also do something about the Nations League, maybe. But up the cherries, and we'll see you in the next one.